I had the pleasure of hearing one of your songs yesterday. One of
Aw.
your produced songs. It was incredible.
Aw, thanks.
And first of all, your voice is just it's so expressive. I mean, you can really feel the emotion coming through your voice. It was amazing.
Thank you. That's so
And
nice.
yeah, and I was just wondering, what is the songwriting process like? How did you write that song or those
Ooh,
songs? Yeah.
which one did you listen to? Because I
Listen
can tell
to
you.
Help Me Heal.
Yeah, yeah, Let Me Heal. Yeah, that was a rough one. Whew. I went through some trauma. So I think writing for me was like journaling my emotions, getting everything out that I was holding in, was really important to me. And then in the songwriting process, I actually took a course during COVID, and it was extremely helpful because as a perfectionist, I had no idea where to start, and I had little pieces of like melody and lyric kind of like floating around, but I would never put them together because I was desperately worried about not being good enough or having something that was bad or people would judge me or whatever. All the limiting beliefs, I had them. So two things happened. I took this songwriting course, and he really just taught us how to write, you know, verse, bridge, chorus, think about the overall structure of the song. Like there was exercises we did, exchanges with other people in the class. Like that was super helpful. And then I had a producer who was just like, just show me what you have. And I'm like, no, you can't listen. And he's like, just show me. And he's like, okay, this is cool. We can work with this. And then he took it into the studio, and then I learned about producing, and I had zero idea about how any of that world worked because I've just been a classical pianist my whole life. And then he took my little drafts and he made them really cool. And I was like, oh, this is actually so fun. And then I hired a cellist from Instagram, that cello guy. And then I hired a drummer from LA. And then it got to be really fun where you're like putting together this project. And then, you record your vocals and you put the reverb on. You're like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like, this is a creative thing that I didn't have to, like, put so much criticism on. And yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah. So the lyrics came from journaling. So you're just writing your thoughts out. You're taking little bits from the kind of from that.
Yeah, or things that I've read. My first song, Hold On, there's a verse in the Bible where he says, pick up the broken pieces, let nothing be wasted. And that blew up in my face when I read that because it was the middle of the COVID and I felt like my life was in pieces and I had no idea how I was going to go forward. And I was like, oh, there's something on this. So sometimes when I read, things will jump out at me and I just kind of see if I can play around. But you're right, it's very emotional writing. It's very much like storytelling, my story. But I also didn't want to give so much away because I don't want it to be like my journal for the world to read. So you try to like use metaphors and you try to bring in like storytelling language or, nature. I've read a few books. Writing Good Lyrics is a really great book that my vocal coach recommended, and just like playing with different words and seeing, how you can make people think. And that's also art, right? Like, how can you give someone an experience when they're listening that they have to think about what you're saying and how it relates to them? And that's where things can get really beautiful.
And where do melodies come from?
Mm, well, I just took voice lessons my whole life, so I think I've been singing for so long that I know it's pretty instinctive. I think I sit down and I find the chords, and then I kind of play around until something hits in my spirit. I guess I don't know how to explain it. I do not like analyze or craft or anything. Sometimes I'm like, oh, that sounds repetitive. Okay, I'll just go up and set it down here. It's just like that kind of, yeah, natural. I think my songwriting, when I did the course, he's like, oh, you write very classically. I'm like, oh, that's because I'm a pianist.
Mhm. And did you record the vocals in a studio or was it at
Yeah,
home? Yeah.
yeah. With August, the producer, he had a studio in Maastricht where I live, and he was awesome to work with. And he's also the one who was telling me like you need to sing behind the beat because you're like always a little bit, it's my personality, and our personalities are always going to come through in our art, So just got to learn to chill out.
So what was it like recording that in a studio? I mean, is there a different mindset from being on stage versus being in a studio in terms of like the mindset you have to get in to produce something?
Yeah. Man, it was 2 years ago now, so it's got to think about that. I mean, I think in my head I split that person completely from the Michelle on stage to like the Michelle the singer because I think also with the classical training it's like so locked into like what it means to be a classical pianist that this to me felt like a completely different world. It was not related at all. Um so I just could kind of be more free, I think. And then we were just, recording process, take after take after take, and then you listen back and you're like, okay, let's try again. And then there's also freedom in just letting go and being like, okay, this is what I have, and let's see what we can do with it. Yeah, it was cool. I had a great producer. You need to have someone that you can work with that you trust and who you're safe with. And he was so encouraging because I was so desperately insecure, and so he really helped me. Yeah.
Do they help you kind of conjure up that emotion that you need to get it out? I mean, how do you conjure that up in a studio?
No, I think that just came from me kind of going there. Like
Mhm.
I put myself there. So just thinking about the words with the feeling. I worked with a vocal coach extensively. He helped me a lot, like prepare. putting myself in the mindset of, yeah, it's your feeling. It's just coming out. It's why you wrote it. And in that sense, it's also very natural. You don't need to put on any airs. I've always not really liked affected singing or anything. So it is very natural. I've always, yeah, just thought, okay, this is how I am. And it was also so new. There was kind of no pressure on it because nobody was like criticizing it and telling me it was bad. So that's really nice. You're just like, this is kind of a free zone, creativity free zone.
Hmm. Well, it really worked. I mean, you could really feel. I was just shocked. I was just like, wow, this is just like really powerful. So amazing.
Thanks. That's
Yeah.
cool. That's so nice to hear, especially because I held myself back for so long because I didn't want to be judged by my classical colleagues. Like, oh, she's such a sellout singing pop songs, right? Like, this is what I mean. Musicians, like, we get these constructs in our mind of what's acceptable to our colleagues because we just want to be accepted by everybody, I guess, or maybe that's a me problem. And now in the last years, it's been like, oh, wait, there's a lot of people out there who don't think like this and they really love it and it means something to them. And maybe I should focus on them instead because it's a lot more fun.